Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another installment of the Ghost Comms podcast, bringing you the best news and interviews in all things Fortnite, Twitch, and esports related. I am Jatmon, your host. Vishal is not joining me today for this recording. We will miss him. Today, I have a very special guest, the owner and founder of maybe the biggest growing Fortnite organization right now and beyond. I have Agent Rad with me today.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for bringing me on, Jatmon. I appreciate you guys, or
Of
appreciate you,
course.
and everybody that's watching as well. So thank you.
Yeah, man. So just tell me about kind of how you got into Fort and how that led into Agent, becoming a thing.
Yeah. So how did I get into Fortnite? It was just one day randomly. I was either a freshman. I believe I was a freshman, and my friend, not really my friend, but some just guy in my gym class named Carson Malinock, he just told me to download this game called Fortnite, and this was like early when Fortnite first came out. Like literally,
Mm.
I'm talking like first week. So I got home on my PS4, downloaded it, loved it. And I mean, I think we all loved it because, it's like arguably the best game of all time,
Mm-hmm.
and instantly loved it. And yeah, that's just how I got into Fortnite. And
Cool.
then what was the other question as well that you asked
How
for
did
Agent?
how did that like lead into like, so obviously you started playing the game and you're interested in it, but how did you get into competitive and how that lead into like the founding of Agent as an organization?
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. So for the founding of Agent, I've always wanted to kind of have like some type of like gaming clan or team
Mm.
house and all that stuff when I was a lot younger. I would say I took a lot of inspiration from like FaZe Rain, FaZe
Mm.
Adapt, FaZe Blaziken, and FaZe Apex in their New York FaZe house.
Mm.
And there was I even owned like a clan before in middle school. It was called like Shifty Team, and it
Mm.
ended up ending. And when Prime Fortnite came out, me and my friends, we just created another friend group, and we called it Agent. And yeah, I mean, competitive was coming out. We were all playing tournaments. We
Mm.
created this, or I created social media accounts for all of us, and I was uploading on daily. I was
Mm.
uploading our clips, doing montages, doing all that stuff, and we grew like a solid fan base. And that's kind of like the origin or the founding of Agent. It was just me and my buddies. We just wanted to
Sure.
be great. So
How did that, because obviously that's a different even like goal, I would think, like when you're like, okay, we're just doing this for fun, like when did that really start to transition into, okay, this is going to be a business, I'm going to grow this like to a real, to kind of the beginning of the track to take Agent to what it is today?
yeah, that was when I saw a lot of social media growth.
Mm.
Like it showed like when I saw like a lot of like once I knew the algorithm on Instagram and I studied it and all that stuff and I knew
Mm.
what to do to reach new people and we kept getting more and more followers. I was like, okay, wow, I was like, we're actually building some type of like audience here and people who support Agent, they're grinding. They're using our hashtag on Instagram, Agent RC. I'm getting DMs every single day. Can I join
Mm.
Agent? Can I join Agent? And I was like, wow, this is nice. And then I also did see like a lot of other teams that just had so much funding, and I was just like, damn, I wish I could be in their position because
Mm.
we weren't able to really pick up any good players at all. If I'm being honest with you, like even
Mm-hmm.
some of the people who were on our team, they didn't even really represent us. They
Mm.
wouldn't like have Asian in their name. They didn't really want to rep us on socials. They would just kind of allow me to use their footage to post on the Instagram and all that stuff.
Mm.
So yeah.
Cool. um so when did what was the whole shutdown like? What's that story? You can be pretty brief with it,
Sure.
but
Nah,
what
nah.
when did that like all happen and what was that?
Yeah. So pretty much with Agent, like it goes back to the last question, when did it become serious? So we grew
Mm-hmm.
a great foundation, a great, fan base and all that stuff. And I was like, okay, I actually want to pick up some bigger content creators, some bigger pro players. And I found out that the, Australian dollar or New Zealand, or yeah, I think it's Australia, New Zealand or whatever,
Mm.
their dollar compared to the US dollar was a big difference. And,
Mm-hmm.
I had a guy named Supreme at the time who, he was just like, he reached out to Agent. He wanted to merge teams. I said, no, I'm not merging teams, changing my branding or anything. I told
Yeah.
him to just leave that team because it's not going anywhere and to just like trust in this business model and the vision I had. And he was down and he gave me like a couple $100 a month, I believe. And then
Mm.
that's when we, expanded out to Oceania and we signed a lot of OCE pros and we were dominating. Power obviously was kicking ass. They were the best
Yeah.
team over there. When we
Yeah.
came into the scene, we were beneath Power, similar to what people would say now. Obviously, we're not beneath Dignitas anymore, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like whenever
Mm-hmm.
we were going up and up and up, there was a team that had so much respect, but then there was a
Sure.
new one, like a grassroots team. So that's how it was when we were involved in OCE and we were doing content, we were doing all that stuff, and it was great. It was really good. I got a taste of what it was really like to have these bigger pros that had blue checks. They just had so much followers and all that stuff, and we got
Yeah.
crazy engagement. And I was like, okay, this is nice. So I was like, okay, OCE pros are nice, but I really wanted some bigger EU guys or some NA East or NA West guys, like the
Yeah.
Reeds or the Epic Wells or the Arkhams, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So, or the
Yeah.
Stentids. And yeah, so what I did was, I realized that it wasn't going to be easy to get sponsorships as well either, because we were very, very small,
Mm.
and it just wasn't possible. Some of the bigger teams didn't even have sponsors as well. So I told the guys I wanted to shut down the team and just kind of like, just think, like I
Mm.
obviously wanted to keep doing it, but I know I needed to raise some serious funding, and these guys were just regular 9 to 5 workers, and it just
Mm.
wasn't going to happen. So pretty much, the team shut down. Also, how this was an actual legal entity was, because my father, he owned a business, so he just made Agent a subsidiary underneath his company at the time.
Mm.
So it was pretty easy. I made sure everything was legit, and I got all the contracts from like a lawyer and all that stuff. And yeah, I mean, I wasn't like the way how I even had money as well. By the way, I'm gonna go back to what I was saying earlier. But the way how I even
All good.
had money is like, I was just like, I don't know what I just had money in my bank account from just like doing things IRL. I was like flipping, like
Mm.
wholesaling, just selling stuff. Like I was just kind of
Mm.
like hustling so that I can be able to like pay player salaries and all that stuff, and be able to pay
Mm.
editors and designers, literally all that stuff. I was just figuring out ways to get money. My parents weren't rich or anything, because I remember in the last one I did, people were just basically saying my dad was just giving me money. Hell no, my parents, they wanted me to work a job. They did not understand what I was doing. I was literally
Mm.
just in my room playing games and running some team, and they were so confused. They didn't really like it.
Mm.
So yeah. But yeah. So no, I shut it down for about a year and a half. I believe I shut it down at the end of 2021. It was like the
Okay.
team was very dead. Like I didn't resign any of the OCE players. We had some creative warriors, and this was in the state when Fortnite was getting more and more boring. I believe this was actually chapter 3, and people were just
Mm.
quitting the game.
Yeah.
And more of the the OG members stopped playing the game. They fell out of love for it, and our social media accounts, I stopped posting on it. So you could really say the middle of 2021 towards the end, like the September, October time. And that's when I completely shut it down, stopped posting, and I took the time I created a business plan. I created a lot of pitch decks, investor decks, and I had to continuously
Mm.
revise it and fix it. And I just did a lot of cold outreach, every single day. I was emailing brands at first to try to sponsor us, a lot of
Mm.
candy brands, you name it, gaming brands, peripheral brands to spend money on us. Didn't
Mm.
happen. And then I reached out to a lot of different athletes, NBA players, MLB players,
Mm.
NHL players, NFL players, everything. And it just took me a year and a half to kind of get someone to invest and to trust in the process. There was a
Mm.
lot of responses that I got as well, but nobody wanted to really take that risk to invest. So
Mm. So, I think that's interesting because I've talked about this a lot, where I think that the more that the esports industry starts to mirror the sports industry, I think the more successful the esports industry will be. And I think there's a very natural merging of that will happen more and more over time. So I think it's
yeah.
interesting that was one of your thoughts, was to start that route, and start that merging. So obviously, something lands, you get that big first sponsor. Um, what was that like? How did that open up new avenues for you? Like, would you say that the money was the biggest difference in what made you unsuccessful in one moment and successful in the next? Like, how much of an impact did that first investor, that big investor, have in how you operated moving forward?
Yeah, it was the biggest impact. Like I was saying, I looked at a lot of teams. I was like, dude, I wish I had their money, because they were doing it in an incorrect way. They were
Mm,
signing too many Fortnite players, doing no content. They just wanted
mm.
PR, power rankings, all that whatever. I don't want to swear, but it was
You
just
can if you
bad.
want. I don't care at all.
No, you're
You
good.
you can let it rip if you want, but
Yeah, but that was definitely the biggest. That's the reason as to why I shut down. Because if not, I could have just stuck with the other guys who were just giving
mm,
me a couple hundred a month, and
sure.
but it just wasn't worth it. So yeah, that was definitely it was amazing. It wasn't even that much as well either. I didn't get that much. It wasn't like some crazy 6-figure investment or whatever. Like I
Mm,
didn't raise too much, but I just knew I just needed a small amount to do what I had to do.
mm,
So yeah, and plus the person that we got as well who invested, he kind of fits the brand. With it was like a blessing.
mm,
He's a multi-dimensional creator, or individual, I should say. To where he's got one of the best personalities in general. One of the best
mm,
personalities in the NFL. He's great on camera. He's one of the best in the NFL at his position. Top two,
mm,
top three, highest paid at his position. So it just worked out. For sure, I just
mm,
wanted the funding, but because he wanted to join as a creator, and I'm very picky about who I add to the brand,
mm.
he blends really well. So yeah.
So yeah, you guys, you get this influx of money, and I remember this was a time that I was on Pipeline, and we were growing, and we were kind of in a very similar position, I think, to being grassroots, and like we were kind of in that pack of we were trying to compete with the Dignitases and the elites and all these people with way more money. at that time, and then we see this agent, and the signings that you guys were making and all this stuff. You made a big impact pretty fast. How were you? So was that kind of your ideal at first? Was to kind of make a splash in the competitive scene and then transition that into something else? What was the kind of the ideal going in once you did get like this funding? Okay, you're like, okay, here's how I move forward.
Yeah. So I knew what I wanted to do. I took a lot of inspiration from Extra and Become Legends. So I knew what to do. If you see what we do, there's similarities to other orgs. We're very authentic and natural with what we do, but I'm not saying we don't copy other teams. I take a lot of inspiration from other places where they do it right. There's not many teams at all that do it right. I'm just being honest with you. That's why I would say
agree.
Extra is the only one, and Become Legends maybe on some things. So yeah, I knew exactly what we did. That's why we created such a big splash or whatever instantly, like you were saying. And I mean, there weren't many free agents. There's a reason as to why I wasn't able to pick up many creators, but whenever we first came in the scene, I was only able to really sign Fatch because there just wasn't really anybody. Not many people were responding to me either. They just thought it was because Team 33 ended at the time, I believe, right when we came in the scene, and everybody just thought it was like horseshit. They didn't believe any of it. So got Fatch, pretty decent signing, to start off with. I appreciate him for trusting in me as well, him and his brother, because, they see everything we're doing, and they, give me a lot of support, because we've come a long way. I told them everything we were going to do, and I appreciate them for taking that trust into me, or putting the trust into me. Then after that, we signed Cold. Cold came off of an FNCS win, and I knew Cold was he's, in my opinion, he's just as good as Peter Bot, if not better.
He's nuts.
It's like this.
Yeah.
So I knew Cold was that guy, and I was just like, if this kid can do content, we'll be fine. I wanted to pick up a creator or a pro that's also good at content, and Cole didn't want to do content. It was really hard. The things were in his contract. I was paying for his social media stuff, like his TikTok, his YouTube, all that stuff. He just didn't want to do it. But eventually, as more and more people became free agents, that's when I was able to kind of do the content approach, the content focused stuff. Like Scented, I got him out of an org because I really wanted Scented, and some things were happening at that team, and him and Cold were duos in the past, and they're best friends IRL, and I was able to get Scented on the roster. And then got paper because I wanted to go to Saudi, and I wanted to kind of meet people and all that stuff. So I think that was worth it. And then we had Pars and Baka. They were just a really nice duo. They're still really good. It's just a duo that was pretty cheap, and I wanted to do content around them. Once again, some pros just didn't want to do content.
Yeah.
And then we got Reet. And then, we started to do content there with all those guys. But then once the guys that I really envisioned, we were supposed to sign Lacey, Bucky became a free agent. The guys that I really wanted and envisioned, I would love to have Kanata, but Kanata's been on Dig for forever. But once the guys that I really, because I've been talking to a lot of these guys for a while, when Bucky was on CCE, this is there's just a lot of things that happen behind the scenes and a lot of things that happen.
Sure.
But I was waiting. Bucky was supposed to have been signed a long time ago, and then even Peterbot. I remember me and Peterbot, we had a call before Globals even happened, and he wanted to sign. And so go ahead. I'll let you.
No problem.
Yeah.
So that, I think that kind of answers my next thing of what looked to the audience or on the outside perspective of shifting this focus from the competitive to the content. It was more, you're just kind of saying the people that we wanted to build that content around just weren't available at the time. I mean, that happens. There are going to be moments in that in this space, especially people get snatched up right before a big event. I'm sure going into Globals this year, nobody's going to be a free agent if any teams are on the horizon. And then we'll see releases after every FNCS, after every Globals, whatever it is. So that totally makes sense. It was just kind of ebb and flow. You're in a valley at the time. So talk to me about kind of this content philosophy. You are doing the house. You made the agent house, which has produced, I think, some of the most viewed and entertaining content that's been in the Fortnite scene for a long time. I think that content houses have always sounded great on paper, but they're really hard to execute. What is different about it? What makes you go about it? What's your content philosophy going into all of that, and how you're plan to maintain all these numbers and this boom that you've been seeing recently? Because I think you've got a really good cast. You've got a really good, and like you said, authenticity. I think this is one big thing that I see with other organizations is trying to bottleneck these pros and creators into what the org wants to be doing, and I call it alg fishing, where it's just you're just making content that you know is going to hit algorithm to some degree, but it's if the pros don't like it, if they don't feel involved and invested in all that stuff, it's just going to fall flat because they're being forced to be there, and you can tell in the content. So that's a props that I have to give to you is all the guys in those vlogs and all the stuff that's been coming out of the house just seems like it's them. It's just an outpouring of who they are, and I think that makes it so much easier going forward from that perspective. But what's your difference in content philosophy, how you approach all this stuff?
Yeah, man. So put a lot of respect to Bucky. You know, he helps me out a
Mm,
lot. Um, it's really simple. You know, we've got a good group of guys that are good friends
mm,
outside of off the cameras. You know, so
mm,
we all mesh really well. So
mm,
when it comes times when we're on the camera, everything is even better. You know, it's very natural. You
mm,
know, all of these guys, they also grind content themselves. You know, like my biggest creator, you know, look at the track record of him with content and all that stuff. The kid does like Bucky. He does everything. You know, he's always consistent. And to letting him like kind of lead the way. He lived in a content house before with NRG, with Clicks, and all those other guys. So he's kind of got a taste of it before. He wasn't the big dog in that house, but in this house he is, and he kind of knows what to do. So I mean, it's just really simple. You know, all these guys, they understand how great of an opportunity it is. You know, we're not like a typical esports team. You know, like these guys know my business model. My goal isn't to end up to be some a Cloud9 or a Fnatic or whatever. That is like
mm,
I want to be as far away from them as possible, because that's just not where I see it. You know, like I love the Simons, AMPs,
mm,
all that's and then they all love that. You know, they want to be real. They want to create like a concert group like the Nelk Boys, like things like that, where we
mm,
can either create our own products and sell it to our supporters and all that stuff. Because I feel as if, like, you know, a lot more people, a lot of like people, they can kind of connect to those type of brands. You know, it's just
mm,
really real and authentic. You know,
mm.
and these guys, they
It
love
doesn't
that. You
feel so
know,
corporate, maybe. Like it
exactly.
doesn't feel
Yeah.
like you're just, oh, here's the brand, here's the logo, and there's nothing to it. I think that's a massive disconnect in the esports scene as a whole.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
you're just getting this like upfront corporatized branding, and it's like people are there. The only reason people give a shit about your organization is because of the people, is because of
The
the players, those
creators.
creators. So it's like you got to connect those. It's like there's to be, I call it synergistic branding, where you need to like, there needs
Yeah.
to be a synergy between the two where one component is indistinguishable from another. I think of like, you look at 100 Thieves. You can't think of 100 Thieves without thinking of Nade Shot and vice versa. They are one
Exactly.
entity in essence. And I think that's the goal that I think organizations should be aiming towards, is not this, and then you do that, you strengthen the brand over time. Even if people do leave, there's residual
Still,
on both ends. People, it's like people still associate Sentinels with Booga. People still want to call them Sen Booga sometimes. It's like that's that
yeah.
that synergy is a really strong thing, and I think people, the naive, immature owners in the scene, I think they kind of lose that fact, and they get so, they tunnel vision on what their image of what they want their branding to be, and they just kind of try and force every asset into that. And I think that's where that disconnect, that failure comes from. But that totally makes sense. So leading into my next question, how do you choose / kind of scout the people that you want to sign? I guess I'll start with this. How would you, if you were to use, I don't know, let's say 3 words to describe like the vibe or the brand of what Agent is, what would you use?
Oh wow, I've never got asked that question before. So they're all gonna be the same. It's just gonna, I was gonna be like a real authentic, and what would the third one be? Damn, I don't know. I've never been asked that before. That's a great
Hmm.
question. Hold on.
No, to give it a
All of a sudden,
think.
all of a sudden words don't exist anymore. Um, Damn.
I don't take offense to
Creative,
this.
I guess. Real,
Okay,
authentic,
okay.
creative.
A
Yeah,
word
we'll
that I
go
would use is
creative.
like rambunctious. I feel like y'all are a
Yeah.
rambunctious bunch. Like, I don't know. It kind of gives me that like the bad boy, like punky vibe almost. It's like you guys are so different. I think you're against the
Yeah.
grain in a lot of ways, and I feel like that embodies that really well. But so does that, like, is that kind of, that kind of stuff? Is that what you're keeping in mind? Is it more like when you go into a new signee, like let's say you had an extra in the budget and you were going to go sign somebody next month, how would you go about? What would you be thinking about? What would be the top things on your criteria for, okay, this is who we're going to pick up?
Yeah, it's just if they can mesh well with the brand,
Mm,
and especially fit in with the house. Like Agent is
mm,
definitely expanding into other games and all that stuff, so that won't really have anything to do with this branding with the house. Like this will be just one sector. So when you see our next few expansions, it'll kind of be its own different thing. So if those
mm,
personalities don't mesh well with the house, it's fine because it's for something completely different.
mm,
But if we're talking about for the house specifically, which you are asking that, and in the Fortnite scene or whatever, it's genuinely just if they have like an good enough personality and they
mm,
they're doing content and all that stuff. Like for example, we had someone like Reed. We had to let Reed go because he wanted to raise, and also when we were doing this transition into getting the house, it didn't
mm,
even make sense in getting him in the house, because his
mm,
personality is not like that. Like one example, and not to talk bad on him, but something like what we, because me and Bucky, we were all talking about this together, like trying to
mm.
scout, figure out who we were picking, me, Bucky, Peter Bot,
Sure.
all that stuff. And we were like, when Reed's live, it's almost as if he doesn't even know he's live. Like he doesn't really talk
Mm,
to chat and all that stuff. We need these energetic personalities. Look at
mm.
Mega fell off the face of the earth. Doesn't play, not in a
Yeah.
rude way either, but
Yeah.
he still has such a great personality.
Mm,
Like I'm not looking to pick up the kid who's placing on the leaderboards, because we've got
mm,
Peterbot, we've got the best player in the world basically. And if we're gonna add somebody else to the house and all that stuff, we just need guys who are just doing their
mm,
own vlog style content. And they understand exactly what I want. So
mm.
yeah.
So I feel like there's a big pitfall, I think, to this this style of choosing, or whatever you want to say, how you this like methodology of scouting. You take an asset like Bucky, right? I feel like the way I would describe Bucky, if I were talking like investors, for example, he's gonna have some really high highs and he's gonna have some really low lows. You have these moments where he's the king of the content world in 1 second, and then he goes too far, or a joke doesn't land, or a clip gets released, or whatever it is, and all of a sudden he's in a valley again. And I feel like so many people don't want to take those risks. Me personally, I probably wouldn't, in all honesty. So what does that scare you, having somebody like a brand risk like Bucky? Like, how do you deal with those moments, those PR crisis moments that happen? Like, even like getting kicked out of DreamHack. I know you guys kind of, tried to spin that a little bit and make some content out of it, but like, do those types of things scare you? In your day to day, like, is your blood pressure a little bit higher when you're going, man, something could come out today, and Bucky.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes. I mean, like for example, when he got kicked out of DreamHack, I think like obviously touching the car is stupid, but at the same time, he just touched the car and he got kicked out. I feel like he just has an X on his back, but I don't
Mm,
really like the type of brand that I'm trying to build, like like with Nelk Boys and all that stuff. Those
mm,
businesses are profitable. They're perfectly fine. They don't have to rely solely on sponsorships,
mm,
And yeah, I'm not really too worried. Like some people say like we won't get endemic sponsorships. I mean, we've got multiple share companies that want to work with us. We're just literally having them kind of bid against each other. We've got a PC sponsor,
mm,
so we're perfectly fine. We have a monitor partner now as well. So I'm not really like I understand that these guys are really real and people call them brand risks, but it's like at the same time, you're either gonna have your Nick 830s or you're just gonna have a real content creator, And I think a lot
mm,
of content creators as well have made mistakes in the past. There's quite literally a lot who've, got caught slipping up and saying something, yet they
yep.
went down to still have a successful career. Obviously Bucky and them, he's gotten kicked out of events and they might make jokes here and there or whatever. And then
Mm,
plus they've toned it down and I've talked to them about it as well. But at the
mm,
same time, I still kind of want them to be real and authentic. But I also told them, chill on certain things because certain things you just really shouldn't be saying in general.
mm,
But yeah, I'm not really too stressed or too worried. It is what
mm.
it is. So yeah. No,
Cool.
I'm fine. I think the guys are good. I think that's what make people. I think that's what the people like about us, anyways, is because it's like it's really real and genuine.
Mm.
So
Is
yeah.
there a because the vibe that I get, and this could be completely wrong, but the vibe that I get is that you're kind of more in a peer like situation with all the guys in the house. That it doesn't really feel like, although technically you are their boss, that it doesn't really operate that way. Is there kind of a dynamic like that in the house? Is there like you kind of get to be overbearing, you get to be whatever? Is that a hard balance to find too? Of like, okay, in this moment I kind of have to be their boss, and then in these moments I get to be their friend. Like, is that hard to juggle sometimes?
No, they're actually pretty like maybe sometimes, but they're pretty respectful.
Mm,
Like whenever I need them to do things, they'll do it for me, or we'll work around their schedule whenever they're streaming or have things to do
mm,
IRL. But they're pretty respectful. Like they're very understanding. They know that I'm kind of busy and working hard as well, and I
mm,
appreciate them for putting a lot of trust in me. But we kick it. We're very cool. We're good friends. We all like go to the gym together and
mm,
go out to eat together and all that stuff, run errands together, do whatever. But when it's time for business, it's also time for business, and they're fine with that. They're
mm.
they're they're pretty cool, humble, and respectful. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So finally, this is the section that I'm maybe most excited for, and I think will take the most amount of time. But um, obviously, if you find any amount of success, no matter how you're doing it, you're going to find criticisms. But I think agent may be a bit more polarizing than the typical, for a plethora of reasons. I think one of the big ones that I've heard thrown around, and honestly, I've had this myself. I've talked about this before. Of like, you know, my personal opinion is that there you kind of have a responsibility as someone with a platform or someone who owns a brand that has a platform, um, to be a good role model to your audience. And there's degrees of that. Like I don't think that like someone who's doing a prank channel, like obviously I'm not saying you should tell your kids not to do pranks or whatever it is, but I think there's a balance to find there. And I think things like there are things that have been maybe on the line where you talk about like taking is the house funded by is it a crypto company?
No, we pay for it ourselves now.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
and then there was a gambling app sponsorship or something that you guys did. So things like that, I think people have said, and I would maybe agree that it's kind of riding that line or maybe crossing it of like, is that something that you should be putting in front of impressionable young audiences' faces, and because if they're fans of the brand, in a sense that you're promoting it. Do you have concerns about that? Do you think that those are legitimate criticisms? How would you respond to that?
So yeah, there's three different things. So I'll start off with the first one. I remember that Senton and Bucky, and I didn't even know that this happened. I remember they made a tweet for a gambling company called Wager that I didn't even announce yet. And I
Mm,
remember I got DMs from a few people about it. And then I spoke with the guys and I made them delete it. And then I had
mm,
a conversation with the company Wager. The company still hasn't even come out yet. And they wanted to partner up with Agent. They wanted us to do this, that, this, that, this, that. I told them to send me a draft contract of what they wanted. I read the contract. It was bullshit. Sent to my lawyers. Lawyers agree with me. That company is yet to even like launch or whatever.
mm,
It was just a scam. So I do my due diligence before we even partner with brands. And then there was another one. I remember we partnered with a company called Rebase, which is an app. I don't know where people get like, crypto or NFTs or whatever from that
mm,
app. It's like, it's really simple. It's basically an app. It's similar to like Pokemon Go. There's obviously like they have like a coin that's in there, but it's not a bad coin. This is a pretty reputable company as well. And when you're just on the app, you literally find rewards. Like you literally
mm,
get like we have something to where people can win jerseys, they can win V-Bucks, all that stuff
mm,
from using the app. And then they've even partnered up. If you look right here behind me, this is Doritos. This is a very, very popular
mm-hmm,
drink company that partnered with Nike SB. They're partnered with the same company that we're partnered with as well. So if a bigger brand than us, like with Nike SB and Doritos, could partner with them, and this is a legit company. So I just think that people they see that that was one of our first bigger partners. So
mm,
I feel as if they're just gonna kind of shit on us for it. I personally don't care at all, though. I'm not gonna lie to you because that's promoting nothing bad. The company just wanted Twitter overlays, they wanted to spot or Twitch overlays, they wanted to spot on our jersey, and they wanted us to drive some traffic towards their app.
mm,
And there's nothing bad about it. There's no scamming or anything like that involved.
mm,
And then the next one, we had a gambling company named Rainbet. They were supposed to fund our first house,
mm,
and the deliverables for that agreement were it was too much for the guys. It was just too much deliverables, and we didn't feel as if we were being compensated fairly for it.
mm,
Even if it was just funding our house, we wanted more on top of that because, like you said, we're killing it in content, and our views right now are insane, and we just wanted more money. They
mm,
didn't really want to do that, so we were just like, okay, literally before we even got to we didn't even get paid from them either. I remember we put them in our first house tour. We were about
mm,
to sign the contract and do deals with them and all that stuff, and we were just like, it's okay, we'll just pay rent on our own, and that's kind of what we're doing now.
mm,
We're just paying rent on our own. So we
mm,
didn't even announce the gambling company as well. I just think that a lot of people they kind of they just talk. They just talk on social media. Like I know exactly what you're talking about. There's been
yeah,
a lot of coaches and just Twitter warriors or Twitter people who just tweet
sure,
shit and they just say a lot of shit. But I agree
mm,
with you as well to where you're saying, these guys, they're supporters are young Fortnite kids,
mm-hmm,
so you should definitely be picky or whatever with the partners that you work with. And yes, I can agree with that because some of these are little kids, like
mm-hmm,
they genuinely are. I run into people all the time at like events or whatever, and I look at them and I'm like, wow, these are literal kids who look up to us. We have an influence on them,
yeah,
and the guys in the house are aware of that as well. We don't take advantage of our supporters or any of that stuff.
mm,
So yes, I agree. I see both POVs, but I make sure that the brands that we work with aren't like terrible
sure,
companies. And then also to go with how you were talking about how do I feel about working with those companies. I mean, there's a lot of other bigger brands out there that work with gambling companies and all that stuff.
sure.
So yeah, I'm not really worried.
Does that
I don't think
does
it's
that
bad.
that same sentiment, does that bleed into content at all for you? Like, do you think that any of your content has promoted, anything that kids maybe, um, are picking up the wrong vibes from, or being bad influences? Is there ever that thought that comes into your mind, or how do you balance that?
If we're talking about on the agent channel, no, because I mean,
Mm,
like we like what like a what's in the box video or ranking YouTuber products or like a
sure.
documentary style video. Nah, we don't promote bad content. I mean, if we do prank videos down the line, I mean, once again, I still don't think that that's bad because like there's a lot of other creators out there that do the same thing, you know. So
Mm,
it's just nah. I mean, I don't. Yeah, we don't promote bad content, or the agent channel doesn't. At least, and I tell these guys, you know, like for
sure.
example, yeah, in Sentis vlogs or whatever, you know, some of them are driving fast or whatever in GTA,
Mhm.
of course, but like I
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think that there's anything that's posted that's really bad. And if there
Mm.
has been, I'm trying to think. I mean, has there been something that's been posted bad that we shouldn't have
Um,
that I'm just missing?
I can't think of an example off. I mean,
Yeah,
well, besides like that, the Bucky clip recently
which
where
one?
he allegedly said a certain word that you're not supposed to say, and then he said mega and all that stuff
Were you
happened.
saying
But
censored?
yeah. Oh my bad. Yeah, did I say
Yeah,
Bucky? Yeah,
censored.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
mistakes happen. It is what it is. I mean, that wasn't even like really promoting content, anyways. You know, it just
sure,
it happens. It happens. It is what it is. So
sure. So, do you have like a have you had that talk with any of the guys, like, hey, these are the lines, like these are the things that you absolutely cannot cross, or is it kind of just like take them as they
nah,
come?
of course,
Yeah.
nah. I told them straight up, you know, and I like I said, I think they're getting better at it.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, we were always grinding and figuring out new ways to kind of like take over. You know, we don't really
Hmm.
compare ourselves to creators in this scene. That's why I keep referring to other creators outside of the scene because that's our
Sure.
end goal. You know,
Sure.
like people will say, "Oh, well, they're making jokes about like a monkey or making monkey noises or whatever." If you
Yeah.
look at Click, Ron, and Lacey play Fortnite, they do the same damn thing. That's why I say
Yeah.
it's just like selective. You know, like people kind of want to
Sure.
shit on these creators. You know, like that's why I'm not really worried about it
Hmm.
because there's creators who are bigger than us that do it. You know, so
Hmm.
they're fine. They're perfectly fine.
Um. So when you envision like Agent in 5 years, what do you want that to look like? What do you think? Like, what are the biggest goals that you're working towards? Is it, expanding into other games, or is it expanding the business into other sectors other than the esports industry? Like, what's on that horizon for you?
Yeah, so just be a content powerhouse, man. I really want to
Mm,
have multiple, like I keep saying this, but I really want to have like this agent house will be like, you know, an AMP level, but I want to have multiple of them, you know, to whether
mm,
it's like, you know, just like an actual content house to where these guys are like TikTokers, YouTubers, whatever. And
mm,
then how we have the Fortnite house or whatever. And then we just have other different groups of guys who mesh
mm,
together so well. And they're a part of Agent. They're affiliated under Agent. They're doing their own different type of thing. And
mm,
then I also, of course, you know, the grassroots, the esports stuff. I love esports. I love it so much. I love the supporters. It's honestly cool going to LAN events and all that stuff and seeing
mm,
these supporters wearing the jerseys and they're just going crazy in the crowds. Like I love it. It's really like a sports team. So we're
mm,
obviously going to stay in esports as well. You know, it's really similar to how FaZe is doing it now because I think they're
mm,
genuinely going back to doing it the right way, to where they're
mm,
content focused, but they still have that that core esports support. And
mm,
that's exactly how I want it. To where we're involved in games where it makes sense. To where it's like a CS:GO, a Fortnite, maybe a
mm,
Call of Duty, and all that stuff. And then we're obviously going to be, you know, partnering up with a lot of different brands, a lot of different, you know, athletes and a lot of different actors. And we're not necessarily letting everybody join agents, but we're going to be doing content with them. And I think that's what separated FaZe from a lot of other teams when they were doing it right. You know, like I said,
mm,
I don't want to be like a Fnatic or a Cloud9. I want to do both. So I want to
mm,
have all these bigger content creators and have like a Speed or a Kai Snat on the team
mm,
that we kind of grow naturally, if that makes sense. You know, we
mm,
don't just like get them once they're massive, but we also still have these esport teams and we have like teams that are dominating, yet we're also collaborating with like a Sauce Gardner and, you
mm,
know, or like the Dallas Cowboys, you know what I mean? So
mm,
that's exactly how I envision agents, where there's just so many damn different departments. And then we have our crazy apparel line and all that stuff. And then we're
mm,
also selling our own products and we're partnering up with brands. There's so much that's gonna happen. There's a lot.
mm.
So
Is it kind of your sole vision? Are there other owners involved that are kind of, or is this just kind of like you're
it's
the
just
head
me.
guy?
Yeah.
Okay. How
Yeah.
much do you have, a
Yeah.
lot of a team under you, or is this like mostly just you that's kind of doing all this?
No. Now I have a pretty good team that helps me with content. Thank God, because
Mm,
I mean I'm still very busy, and I'm gonna figure out or continue to figure out how to dilute work to other people because
mm-hmm,
I just have a lot of shit to do. But Yeah, majority. I don't want to say majority of it is me because that sounds selfish, but it just depends. When it comes to the content, though, I still do put a good amount of time into it. But I
Mm,
brought on a new guy. Shout out to Case, who's helped me out with the content a lot, and he grew our channel instantly to damn near 100K subs, like within the first 60 to 75 days.
mm,
So, yeah, I've got a good content team, but I'm working on having good now getting on managers to do different things and all that stuff. So
mm.
it's scaling and it's getting there. So yeah. But for the
What?
vision and all that stuff, yeah, it's just me
Yeah.
to be honest.
What do you?
And shout out to Conley as well. Shout out to Conley. I totally
Yeah.
forgot. He's a co-owner as well.
There you
Yeah.
go. What do you think? Because I have a pretty refined opinion on this. What do you think is like the perfect size for an esports company, like in terms of employees and then in terms of signees?
That's a good question. For one, I don't even want to call us an esports team because I hate it so much,
Mm,
Like I just don't want to be seen as like an esports team. I just want to be seen as genuinely like a brand,
mm,
Like a Nelk, but Nelk has gaming affiliated
mm.
with it, Then they have an esports team, but it's not an esports team, it's way bigger than that. That's the first thing. So it depends. Like it really depends because like I said, if I wanted to have multiple content groups a part of it, we could
Sure.
easily have like 50 to 75 employees because there's just going to be like different content groups. There's going to be like 3 to 5 in each group. And if we have like three, that's like nine to like, oh my God. Yeah, it really could be like 50 to 75 because if we're going to have like different rosters and different games and the
Sure.
management, I would say like that much, But that
Mm,
doesn't mean that like we're going to be like involved in too many different things and we're in this all over the place. It's going to be structured really well. So
sure.
hopefully I answered that well as well, if that makes sense, because
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking like long
No,
term where I
I
really want us to be.
I thought it was really interesting that you brought up Phase earlier because I think that part of this whole restructuring and really dialing back that Phase has done. One of the biggest things was like Banks talked about this on one of the podcasts. I can't remember which one it was, but he talked about he wanted to go down to like 10 employees,
Yeah.
that are running the whole
Yeah.
thing. And I tend to lean more towards that. I think like you get people who are really good at what they do. You only hire the amount of people you need to hire where you can actually be paying them a full-time salary and they can focus on I guess I would rather have like one person doing a full-time job and making a full-time living and we
Yeah.
can provide a salary and benefits than spreading that across 5-6 managers who are all doing half a job or even less so. And I think that's another thing with these the organizations that are competing in the same scene is like you see a lot of people where it's like Twitter manager and it's like, dude, you're posting like 2 times a day. What is this? Like,
Yeah.
and he's getting paid
Yeah.
some few $100s a month to do that. I'm like, that is not the direction that esports needs to go to me. And I feel like there's this line of, it has such a small barrier to entry to get into esports that you have a lot of unprofessionalism that comes with that as well. So it's hard to like establish that line of, okay, we're professional, so we're not going to allow this type of stuff to happen. And I think, I've talked about this in Fortnite specifically. It's really hard. You can't really tell the difference between a legitimate company / organization versus one of these pop-up Twitter teams, where they bought a 5K account, had some graphic designer make a new logo, they sign, 3 or 4 free agents. And I think this is another thing too, that I'd be interested to get your take on is like, I think the pros dictate so much of how the Fortnite esports ecosystem runs. Like, I wish that pros would stop just selling out for the bag. And, it's like this new Twitter team comes along, offers them, the whatever they're asking because the team is just completely reliant on that player's brand. And then, it's like after 3 months, it's gone. And you just see this cycle over and over again. Like, didn't Frantic just shut down? And they were like,
Oh yeah.
they like
Yeah.
that stuff like that. I hate that cycle that goes on, and I feel like a lot of it is because these pros keep buying in, they keep taking these contracts, and so I wish there was some legitimacy in that. Have you ever encountered that? Do you ever feel that way, where you feel
To
like
be honest,
other organizations are kind of bringing down the legitimacy of everyone else who's competing in the Fortnite space?
um, yeah, I guess it's gonna be really hard because there's not that many revenue streams for these players because the
Mm.
prize pools are so bad and they also don't do content. So it's like I'm not gonna lie, they're always
Yeah.
gonna sign those contracts just to get their quick bag, which sucks. But also I think it's cooked. I think it's cooked. I don't think that there's ever gonna be like a perfect world tour. There's gonna be some legitimacy in this
Mm.
space. I think we're always gonna see that cycle of teams that just come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie. I just don't, unless
Well,
Fortnite does something to where it works with orgs and they make some restrictions or
yeah.
something like that, then yeah, if they do that,
Yeah.
then of course it's easy. That'd be the easiest fix. But
Right.
if they don't do that, I don't think it'll ever happen. And like how you said that team ended, I didn't even I honestly don't
Yeah.
even keep up with these smaller teams, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you that earlier. Like, do you think that when it comes to Fortnite specifically, because I know you wanted to expand into other places, other businesses, other games, but when it comes to Fort specifically, like, is it even worth having competitive players? It's more like you have content creators, and if they happen to play and place well, like I think a Peterbot may be the best example of this, where Peter's value to me to an organization is not that he places or plays in grants. It really is.
Yeah.
If he didn't place, he'd still have anywhere from like 85 to 95% of the value that he has for an organization, in my opinion. Like, yes, it's great that his name is up there on the leaderboards and he's on the broadcast and all that stuff. And, people see Agent Peterbot, but like, to me, that is such a small contribution to the overall of what he is and who he is. So is it even worth, having people in the competitive space and for it?
Um. Yes and no. I mean, like, it'll be so cool. Like, the one kid I'm gonna get back on this team eventually is Cold, because I just like it's cool. It's so like going to an like for example, whenever like Cooper was wearing our jersey and he won
Mm,
globals in Denmark, it's just such a good feeling seeing your players on that stage wearing your jersey. But when you think of it, because I don't let my emotions control my decision making.
mm,
So like it doesn't make sense, from a business standpoint, because there's just no value there. So let's say like if I were to sign another pro like Cold or whatever, if I'm actually able to do content with these guys,
mm,
then yes, it makes sense. But if it's just like how I did with Pars and Baca, Paper, Fatch at the time, because that was
mm,
the only option I had, no, I would never do that again. Because it's just no point,
mm.
especially for how I keep saying how I want my business to be eventually. Like, cool, I'll keep the esports stuff, but what more pros do we need to sign for Fortnite? Maybe in
Yeah.
another game it would make sense or whatever. But towards like
Yeah.
it could be feasible and profitable or whatever. But
Yeah.
nah, man. I mean, what do you think?
Um, no, I would say the same thing. I think it's better. I think maybe if that's the only game that you're operating in, have one person who's just going to be on the leaderboards. I don't like
Yeah,
top 15,
yeah,
top 20. That's fine with
that
me.
one guy.
Like you're basically a human billboard at that point, and I hate to say that, like, because it's not to belittle their talent, the hours and the stuff that they put into the game. It just isn't profitable, and that's the big thing
At
that
all.
people think
Makes
about
no
is like,
sense. Yeah.
from a business perspective, because that's what at least me in esports, that's what I'm trying to get to. Anytime I'm part of an organization, I'm pushing us to a certain goal. It's going to be profitability, sustainability. Can we get to a point where what we are doing is producing enough revenue to keep us sustaining and profitable and all that stuff? And just these players, they suck in more money than they're worth in every
Oh yeah.
metric. And the only way that you can even get a non-tangible return on that is content views, and that's not even guaranteed payouts. It's not like, we got 1 million views on this YouTube video that guarantees pay for your salary. It doesn't, because you have RPM stuff, you have demonetization, you have so much that goes into those inconsistent revenue streams. So yeah, I would say if you're operating only in Fort, have one guy who's your billboard, who is getting on leaderboards where people are going to see it on the broadcast and go, oh, what's that organization? And then that is your funnel. That's your billboard, your electronic billboard to your website, your content, all of that stuff. And then your content creators take it from there. But yeah, no, for the most part, especially where Agent is at now, I'm like, yeah, I mean, you have Peter, and Peter is just like a dark horse, a unicorn, I think, in that sense of like, he's both, and that's crazy. Not only is he one of the biggest content creators, he's also consistently competing at the top level. That is just that's a special thing. That's an asset that you never want to get rid of, and the fact that you can contribute that highly to both is just a rarity. So I think you're in a really unique position in that sense. Okay, let me.
100%.
This is a two pronged question, but I think the way that you answer one will kind of the way you answer each of them will kind of inform each other. Um, the first part is what are the biggest things that you've learned in your time owning a business and owning a business in the esports industry, and if you were to go back and restart an organization today or restart the company today, what would you do? What would you do
Oh,
differently?
all right. So I like the second question a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What have I learned in the scene? I mean, like, this sounds crazy, man. Like, I learned so well from other people's mistakes and experiences. So hearing like Extra Sly, one of the old owners of Extra, like I
Mm-hmm.
used to listen to his podcast on Brand Risk maybe once a week at
Mm-hmm.
the time. And same with the one guy, I forgot his name, Max or something like that. He owned EPE Enterprise Gaming or whatever. and he was on that podcast. So I mean, like I just learned a lot from other people's mistakes, man. And I mean, for me, just stay true to yourself. Whatever your vision or business model is, just stay focused on that. Don't get distracted.
Mm.
Don't care what other people think. You know how you were explaining how people would give their 2 cents on things that are happening with the partners that we worked with. I know the partners we worked with. I think people genuinely just see that because it's Web3 and these are legit Web3 companies. They're like,
Mm.
oh, they're selling their souls because they can't get good sponsors.
Mm.
No. People because like other people, like for me, like I won't respond back to people on Twitter who at me or who say the craziest shit because I don't really care. It really doesn't matter. So that's like, that's what I've learned, just to not care, and then what else is there? How I always say, like, to focus kind of more on content that goes back into really staying true to your vision and goal. Like I could be, there's a lot of pros I want to join and get signed to the team. If I was just such a
Mm-hmm.
fanboy of everybody and I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is like Epic Well, I
Mm.
want to get Epic Well on the roster, shit like that. Like, no, that's just gonna hurt
Before
my brand more than it's gonna benefit.
before you go too far, this is one of my biggest when people ask me for advice or whatever it is, I'm like, dude, you have to. This is one of the most foundational things. The first time I ever went to an event was Raleigh for Invitational in 2022. Started networking there. Like I was really new to kind of the business side of esports, and I just kind of been making content on my own for fun, whatever. And when I really started my like career track in that sense. And the biggest thing is just don't celebritize, don't idealize these people, because honestly, for
Yeah.
one, they're some of the worst people that you will ever meet. I'm sorry to say, this industry is filled with people where if they weren't successful in this space, they would not be successful at all. They have no other, like, this is the only option for them in their lives. And that sucks to say. And that's not everyone. I have met some really amazing people in this space, but for the most part, it's like they don't have any qualities or skills or talents that would translate to the real world. And that's why they have run to the internet to be successful. Two, it's like the phrase "never meet your heroes." It's like they're people. They are fallible, people who
They're
have
human, man.
flaws and
Yeah.
are, yeah. And if you treat them like an equal, you'll get so much farther than if you're kissing ass all the time or if you're just trying to suck up to people. So I think that perspective shift when you start treating everyone as an equal and start kind of acting and living as if you are worth their time and all of that stuff and approaching them with that style of confidence, you'll get so much farther than you would. And I think that's a big thing that people miss out on is like the second they get in a call with clicks for the first time, they're like fanboying and freaking out and stuff. And it's like they never will respond to that. You are putting yourself in a position below them. They'll never respect you enough to do business or to do all those things. So, it's like, I think that's a massive thing that I like to get out to people is like just treat them, realize that they are a person that is equal to you. And that if you treat them that way and you approach them with that level of confidence and respect and whatnot, it'll go much better for you than if you're acting like a fanboy. But
1,000%. 1,000%. Yeah. No, I agree with that. What was the question? Yeah, so it's for things that I
if you were to, biggest things you learned, and if you were to go back and start, restart today, what would you do?
yeah, I'm trying to see if there's anything else more that I've learned. I mean, I've learned a lot, but some of them
Sure.
are just so simple that I don't even know if I want to say it. But because I just get DMs all the time for people asking for help and advice, and it's just so
Mm.
hard to respond to it all. So I'm just actually trying to take the time here to think, because I know a lot of people are probably going to watch this. I say just take advantage of the opportunity. Don't get too comfortable. Like
Mm.
even for me, I've started doing content as well, and it's just another revenue
Mm.
stream for my business plus growing my personal brand. Like
Mm.
in my free time, I just start doing content. And it's like even though sometimes I feel like I'm bullshitting throughout my day, I also realize that I am recording and stuff like that, and it's I'm basically making money.
Mm.
Like my YouTube channel is doing really great right now, and
Yeah, your
it's just
vlogs have
another
been doing
revenue
really
stream.
well. Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, I mean, what else? I'm just really just trying to think for the kids
No,
out there
go
that are
ahead, man.
watching, man. Mm.
Take your time. No
Yeah, I
problem.
mean, like we're like just exactly. It goes back to the last thing though. Everybody's human, so don't idolize any of these people. They're
Mm.
literally all human. So yeah, and then you said if I were to go back in time, are we
Yeah.
talking back in time like when Fortnite first came out, or if I were to just like
Or
have no like
it can be either. If you were to restart your business from scratch, what would you do differently? Like if you were to start
with
today,
the
let's
knowledge
say.
I have or without the knowledge?
Yeah, with the knowledge you have, yeah.
With the knowledge I have, and we're in the prime state of Fortnite right now, like the current state or back then.
Sure, yeah, you can do right now. Let's say today. Let's say you didn't have Agent, but
Today,
you had all the knowledge that you
yeah.
have. If you were to start a brand today, what would you do? Like what would be,
That's
first steps?
come up with a nice, because I already have the vision that I want, like the whatever.
Mhm.
it's gonna come up with good branding.
Hmm.
So come up with a name, come up with good branding. Agent's working on a rebrand right now. It's gonna be so fire soon. But come up with a good branding. Now it's time to go raise some funding. Where you're definitely in the best spot though, because the salaries are at an all-time low because there's not that many teams and players realize they're not worth what they're really asking for.
Right.
But it's going to take you a lot of time to get some funding. You know, there's no track record of anything. You're starting from socials that have zero.
Hmm.
So go get some funding. And then once I get the funding, I think there's a lot of free agents. If agent ends, the only person that would probably get picked up would just be Peterbot. So there would still be good free agents, you know. And just pick up these guys, do the fire announcement videos, be very authentic, do the photo shoots with the guys, you know, just do the great content. It would definitely take some time to get some funding, though. I'm not gonna lie to you. It'd probably take like 2 years. So I don't even know if these guys would still be playing Fortnite 2 years from now, like Bucks or
Sure.
whatever.
Sure.
So it's really hard. Maybe I might not even go the Fortnite route, to be honest. I
Mm.
might even just try to. That's tough, man. If I were to restart right now,
Hmm.
yeah, that's really hard. It's really hard
Yeah.
because it made sense as to why I suck with Fortnite because that's when I started. You know,
Sure.
like I might even just pick up content creators
Yeah.
and just people who are vloggers and YouTubers, and they also do Twitch streams. You know,
Yeah.
so that could be my actual approach though, because let's like how I was explaining, raising funding is not easy. It takes a long time. So I might have to just go into a different world, a different community, a different space, I should say.
Sure.
So yeah,
Sure.
yeah, that one's hard.
Okay, so we have two traditional questions that we ask every guest at the end of each episode. So, and we kind of touched on this earlier, more for agent, but I want to go personal to you, and obviously that's going to be pretty similar. But you know, when you look, what's on the horizon for you? Anything you want to plug? And this can be short term, long term. Like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? But also, like, if there's anything in the near future that we should be looking out for, anything like that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, short term, just I always stay in the moment right now. I obviously think long term, but we really just have to continue to capitalize on this house. Same way how you basically said content houses look so good on a piece of paper,
Hmm.
yet it just never falls through and goes well. You know, I don't want this house to be a failure. You know, we've been
Yeah.
great within the first 2 to 3 months we've been here, like fucking
Yeah.
phenomenal. Like
Yeah.
literally, so just stay consistent. You know, it's like we're always busy, but it's okay. We'll reap the benefits once we're done with content and once we're done with everything. You
Yeah.
know, but that's our short term goals. Definitely just stay locked in and just keep focusing. You know, like I'm not even a content creator myself when I do content on the side, yet I just have such great discipline to where I'm actually gonna post 2 vlogs a week now if the numbers
Mm.
continue to do well. If not, I'll stay
Yeah.
at one, and I stream every single night. So you know, I think my players see me doing that. They do it as well. So that's the short term goals. For long term, there's a lot of other factors that can go into it. You know, it just depends on what happens, to be honest. But I mean,
Sure.
just achieve all the goals I want. You know, to where Agent is just one of the most recognizable brands ever. You know, like that logo
Mm.
or whatever. And the same thing with our creators. Same thing with their names. Same thing with my name. You know, to where we have all these multi-dimensional creators who just have such great personalities or skill sets and whatever they do,
Mm.
and they're all affiliated with Agent. I really want Agent to be that massive powerhouse to where whenever we were to do like a soccer game against like AMP or whatever, we're selling out soccer stadiums with them and we're just killing in content, and then we're
Mm.
also partnering up. I keep saying this, but it just doesn't happen. I don't know why people don't partner up, and the content creators do this, which I love now. The content creators, they all partner up with each other. That's how you see Aiden Ross and all these other guys, take content to a whole other level. But
Yeah.
like school, in school, bro, they don't want people working together. It's one of the worst things ever. Like it's okay for somebody to be better than you at something. Just collaborate and
Mm.
all that stuff. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. Just continue to collaborate with other people. Now, like I said, I think it'll kill the brand if I just allow anybody who has a million followers or a couple 100,000
Mm.
followers to join the team or has a blue check. But definitely collaborate with them, do some merchandise drops, just film some great dope content that you guys would love to see. The same way how Mr. Beast just did something with Speed, 2 different personalities.
Yeah.
Yet the video was amazing. It was great. So that's exactly where I see us long term doing that stuff. We're gonna have a dope ass apparel line. It's just gonna be a whole bunch of stuff to where it's just like, holy shit, this started from an esports Fortnite team to where now they have their own arena named after them. There's so much. There's so much. It takes time. It might be 5 to 10 years from now, but yeah, we're definitely gonna get there. And then you said you said a third thing. You said short term, long term. And what else did you say?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I
where
mean, yeah. Like, where do
where
you
was
see
it?
you as a person, and
As a person, I mean, I'm pretty Christian. I think God will come back really soon. But I mean, I think I'll just be chilling, like having
Mm.
hundreds of millions, and hopefully I've got a nice wife to where I can just have lots of children. If this is within the 5 to 10 years from now,
Sure.
I believe in marriage, especially at a young age, as long as you find the right woman. So, I mean, it depends, man. I just kind of I'm doing content as well because I want to inspire the younger generation of kids that look up to me. I think a lot of men that are growing up are very soft nowadays. You know, people kind of cancel the Tate brothers and all these things, and I'm not saying I agree with everything that they say, but you know, I think people should like have somebody like Jesus Christ as their role model, and I kind of want to spread the gospel through my content, even though I kind of made riz up girls like people say in my videos or whatever, but like definitely I just kind of want to inspire the younger generation, to make them just eat better, work out, get closer to God, and just not be raised in the incorrect way to where they're too feminine. I think a lot of these men need to be a little bit more masculine and grow a pair. So yeah.
I mean, hey man, I'm a Christian too. I can echo that to a great degree. I was a youth pastor for some years, so I definitely feel the same way. So why I got into content in the first place actually was I felt like this generation needed some direction like that. That was also entertaining. I mean, you got the Nick A30s, but I mean, what kid over 12, 13 is watching Nick A30? You know what I mean? So no, it's good. And then the last question that we always ask is if you were to give one piece of advice, and I know you've given a lot of advice and given your insights, but if you were to give one piece of advice to the audience listening, it could be life related, it could be Fortnite related, business related, whatever. What would it be?
Ooh. Okay. For one, just watch Alex Hormozy. He always gives the best advice. But damn, for me, I want to just go back to God. I genuinely think if you want, it depends, because it depends on what they want advice on. If you actually just want true happiness in life, no matter you want to be rich, poor, whatever, just give your life to Christ. And I promise if you just literally do what you should be doing, you'll actually feel happy. It's hard to fight against temptation, but you can do it with Jesus Christ. So that is my number one piece of advice for that. Genuinely just be with Jesus Christ. I promise it really, it's hard, but it's for the best. Like getting off of social media. I don't even listen to secular music anymore, cutting out lust and all that stuff, all that stuff. It's really worth it. And then just another piece of advice, my last one, I would just say, whatever you do, bro, just stay focused on it. Like it's probably like progress that you might not see, that's not visible. Like for me, bro, I'm telling you, I was sending there was even days where I slacked where I didn't do it, or days I just couldn't because I didn't know what else to do. But I was just sending hundreds of emails and phone calls to NFL players, their agents, well, you name it. And to me, it was progress because I was getting told no. They were criticizing me, and I got bad criticism and good criticism, meaning like they were shitting on me. And then I was also like, people wanted to help me. They liked that I was young and, really trying to do what I wanted to do. So it eventually helped me perfect everything to where once the person was really interested and I got his attention, everything was perfect. So even if it's invisible progress and people are shitting on you for what you're doing, like think about it, guys. Like for a lot of you guys who already know my story, I played basketball. I was really good at basketball. I could have went to college for it, whether it was JUCO, whatever. A lot of people in my hometown or whatever, they thought I was retarded for quitting basketball to create some gaming team and just whatever. They were just like, why are you doing this? And to me, I had a vision. Nobody else understood what I was doing. I was posting Fortnite clips on my Instagram all the time. Nobody understood, even my parents, but my parents were pretty chill. But at the same time, they were just like, what are you doing with your life? I was in college, I was doing it online, but they wanted me to work a 9 to 5. So I say, just stay determined to your goals. Agent has been around for 5 years, literally 5 years. Like this is not something that took and it's still stressful. It's still hard, So yeah, just stay very consistent and determined and locked in. And like I said, just connect with Jesus Christ. Pick up your Bible, read your Bible, and things will go well. God definitely blessed me, and He put me through a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of trial and error, but now it's seeming like it's pretty successful now. I guess it's not perfect right now, but yeah, that's the advice I would say. So that was a lot, but yeah.
No, I like you, man. Amen. No better place to end it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening for yet another installment of the Ghost Comms podcast. This was Agent Rad. I'll have all of his stuff linked in the description. Go check him out. Go check out the Agent channel, all the vlogs they've been doing, all the team content, all that stuff. They're killing it in the Fortnite scene right now and expanding now into content and beyond. We will catch you in the next one. Peace.